In this video, I'm going to show you how to work the purl stitch. Now I have a few cast on stitches here on my left needle, and I have my yarn coming from the right end. This is my tail here. This is the working yarn, so attached to the ball coming from the right end. And my right needle is my empty needle. So the first thing that you're going to do when you purl is, unlike when you knit where your working yarn stays behind the needles, when you purl, it's always going to be staying into the front of the needles. So keeping this yarn into the front, I'm going to insert my right needle into the first stitch on my left needle, from the right side to the left side into the front of the stitch, just like that. Okay. And sometimes I like to hold both needles with my left hand when I'm doing this next step. There we go. So holding the working yarn in the front, I'm going to wrap it around the right needle from back to front. And then I'm going to push this new loop through the left stitch. And then I'm going to slide the left stitch off. Now when you do that first stitch, your tail might kind of loosen up a little bit, so I'm just going to tighten the tail. It's only that first stitch. There we go. Okay, so let's do that again. Holding the yarn in the front of the work, insert your right needle into the front of the stitch on your left needle from the right side of the stitch to the left side. Then you're going to wrap the yarn around the right needle from back to front. Then you're going to push this new loop through the left stitch, and then take the left stitch and it slides off of the needle. Okay. Then I just sort of tighten just a little bit up my tension there. Okay. One tip that might help is, after you insert your right needle into the stitch, before you wrap the yarn around the needle, feel free to hold both of the needles with your left hand. And then once you're done wrapping, you can go back to holding the needle with your right hand. And I also use the fingers on my left hand to help guide the stitches along the needle. Okay, when you get to the last stitch, you purl it just like all the others. So just like your knit stitches, when you get to the end of the row, you swap hands. So your right needle then becomes your left needle, and your empty needle is back in your right hand. So we just purled that first row. Now what I want to show you is, often you'll find a purl stitch is worked alongside a knit stitch. For example, a lot of patterns will say knit 1, purl 1, or knit 2, purl 2. So on this next row, I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's say the pattern says to do knit 1, purl 1. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the first stitch. Now the next stitch is a purl one, so then I bring the yarn to the front of the work, and then I purl that stitch. And then since the next stitch is a knit stitch, I need to bring the yarn to the back of the work, and then I work the knit stitch. And then to do the purl stitch, I bring the yarn to the front of the work, and then purl. And then to make sure to bring the yarn back to the back of the work so it's ready to knit the next stitch. Bring the yarn to the front to purl. And then that last stitch I will purl. So I'll bring the yarn to the front of the work, and then I have it purled. So that is how you work the purl stitch.